Hi everyone, and welcome back to BitKnits. Today I'm going to show you how to do a really easy flower center granny square. Now you'll have to excuse all of my tails. I am making these little granny squares into a much larger project, which I will show you in a bit. These granny squares are perfect for those beginners who have just sort of mastered the traditional granny squares, which is all shells. This square, we create a flower in the center, and then we work a round of the granny shell stitch to create the granny square. Now I have only worked one round of the granny shell, but of course if you wanted to make a larger granny square you could keep going with your rounds. Granny squares are a wonderful basic pattern. You can create so many different projects from a simple granny square. For example, I am using my granny squares to create a much bigger square, which I am then bordering with the granny shell, and I'm going to join these larger squares together into a blanket. So you can see I've got my granny flower center squares joined together, and then I've added a border. But that's for another video. Back to our video today, I am going to show you how to create that center granny square with the flower in the middle. You can use any yarn that you have available. I am just using acrylic yarn, and I am trying to use certain colors just for purposes of this blanket. I am also going to be using a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, but again, you can use whatever hook, whatever yarn that go well together for the size of granny square that you need. So let's jump right in. To start, grab your center flower color, any color that you'd like, and we're going to start with a magic ring. In that magic ring, I'm going to chain one to secure it. If you're not a fan of the magic ring, you can always chain 4, slip stitch to the first chain to create that ring, and then chain 1. Now we're going to put 16 single crochets right into this ring. That chain 1 does not count as anything. It just kind of secures our ring and gets us up to the height that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 16 single crochets into this ring. 16 single crochets. If you've done the magic ring, you can pull your center closed. Find that first single crochet. So don't use the chain 1 at the beginning. You want to find that first actual stitch and slip stitch to it. I always say if you're unsure of what that first stitch is, just count your stitches backwards until you have 16. For the petals, we're going to chain 3. This is petal number 1. You're going to yarn over, and you're going to work a half of a double crochet into that same place that you just chained out of. So I'm going to put my hook in, bring up a loop. I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, go back through 2. Now I don't want to complete that double crochet. I'm going to yarn over again, put my hook right in that same space where I just worked out of, yarn over, back through 2. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to do this again. Bring up a loop, yarn over, back through 2. I'm going to do this one more time. I want a total of 5 loops on my hook before I finish this double crochet cluster together. So once you have your 5 loops on your hook, you can yarn over and pull right through all of them. We're going to chain 3. There's our first petal. Skip the next stitch. So sometimes with these clusters they can hide the stitch that's right next to it, so make sure you find that next stitch and you skip it. So I'm going to skip one. Working into the next, I'm going to do another cluster. So half of a double crochet, And for these next petals, you want a total of 6 loops on your hook before you yarn over and pull back through all of them for the cluster. So yarn over into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, back through 2. I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over into that same stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, back through 2, 4 loops, yarn over, same stitch, yarn over, back through 2. I've got 5 loops. I'm going to do this one more time. Yarn over, back through 2. I've got 6 loops, yarn over and pull back through all 6, and there's our second petal. Going to chain 3, skip 1, so just remember to find that stitch that's right next to the petal that you just worked. Skip that one, into the next we're going to work another petal cluster, so another double crochet cluster. And remember, you want 6 loops on your hook for the rest of these petals. The first one is just a little bit different because that chain 3 counts as one of your double crochet clusters. I've got 5 now. I'm going to work another one. And 6 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull back through all loops, chain 3. So keep working this all the way around. You should have 8 total petals at the end of this round. I have my 8 petals. I'm going to chain 3 after that last petal, and I want to slip stitch into the top of that first petal that we did. So you can see there's a bunch of stitches on the side. Find that very top one and put your hook in and just work a simple slip stitch. Now we can fasten off. If you are not changing colors, all you want to do is just work a slip stitch right into that chain 3 space. But I'm going to be changing colors, so I'm just going to cut my yarn here, bring in my next color. So take your outside color, and this is going to be this first round of your granny shell stitch. So we've got our center here, and now we're going to work this outer bordering shell around the flower. For this round, just start with a slip knot. Find any chain 3 space, so any space in between those petals. Put your hook in and just join that new color with a slip stitch. Chain 3 and work 2 double crochets into that same chain 3 space. This is the start of our corner. So it doesn't matter which space you work into. What we're doing is we've just created this top corner. You can see there's our corner, and in corners you have 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the same space. On the sides you will just have the 3 double crochets. So you can see we're going to have 4 corners, and in between each corner we're just going to work a shell, which is 3 double crochets. So I start on a corner, and I'm not going to finish this corner. When I work around, I will work into this same space, chain 3 and slip stitch to that top chain 3 that we did to start this round. You'll see what I mean when I get around the corner. In between your shells, you can do whatever you have been taught or like to do for granny squares. For this pattern, I'm going to chain 2 in between my shells, but you don't have to chain any. You can chain 1, you can chain 2, it doesn't matter. Whatever you feel is working for you for this pattern. But I'm going to go ahead, chain 2, and work 3 double crochets into the next chain 3 space. Chain 2, jump to the next chain 3 space, and this is a corner, so I'm going to work 3 double crochets, and I like to chain 3 for my corners and then work 3 more double crochets right into that same space. Chain 2, into the next chain 3 space, work 3 double crochets, and the tails, get out of there, tail. Chain 2, in the next chain 3 space we will be working a corner. So a corner is the 3 double crochets, chain 3, and 3 double crochets into the same chain 3 space. So now I've got 2 corners here, the start of my first corner. Into the next chain 3 space, we're going to work 3 double crochets. I'm chaining 2 in between my shells on the side. So 1, 2, 3, chain 2. Next chain 3 space will be a corner. So 3 double crochets. Chain 3, and 3 double crochets into the same space. Working on this last side, I'm going to chain 2, find that last chain 3 space and work 3 double crochets into it. And now we're back at our original starting point, which is the first corner. I'm going to chain 2 to get over to that space and work 3 double crochets. Chain 3 for that corner. Once you have your chain 3, you're going to work a slip stitch into the top of your starting chain 3 for this round, and slip stitch, and there is your first granny round. For me, I am only working the 1 round, and that is because I am going to do a continuous join as you go with these squares, which means I need to leave 1 row or 1 round of grannies undone. So when I use the continuous join, that will be the next round. I will do a separate video on how to do that, and it will make more sense as I'm showing you in that video. Once I have that video up, I will link it down below in the description box so you can check that out. But for now, we are going to fasten this one off. And you've got your square. Now if you had wanted to continue, you would have just slip stitched into those next stitches, slip stitched into that space, chain 3, 2 double crochets, and continued the same way around. Like I said, these granny squares are a really nice beginner step up from the traditional granny square where you just work the granny shell stitch. This gives a nice center piece for that granny square, and it gives you a really nice foundation, a starting block for something larger like this. So I've got a few more granny squares done, just a few more until I can create another larger granny square block with all of these, and eventually I'll have a blanket in no time. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.